Good morning. We'll give everybody a few minutes to come in and let the YouTube send out its juju. But I don't know if we have anybody here just yet, but I'm going to give it a minute. But we have Sandi here today. Glad to have you with us, Sandi.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Oh, you are always welcome. And we've got Mtn Grandma here.
Hey, everybody.
And we're just going to give it a minute for folks to come on in. It's a beautiful day. Everybody's probably out and about.
I hope we have a beautiful day. We have had wind. We've had wind to the point where there's wind advisories on driving on the freeways up here. And just, it's been really, truly just horrible. It makes you want to stay in and you try to, go outside and do what you can do. And you just come back in feeling like you've just been beat the heck up. You know what I mean? Darn wind.
For sure.
But,
for sure.
Good time to get stuff done indoors, I suppose. But yeah, I just got a notification just now.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
So Sandi is our special guest today, and she is in Arizona right now, where it's looking sunny and warm.
Yeah, it's
What's
gonna
the
be
temp
about,
today?
95, 97 in Tucson today.
Wow. And Tammy's in Arizona. And Tammy, what's your temps today?
My temp today is, hang on, I'm gonna check so I'm not lying to you. Is it really 58 degrees outside? So it's 66. So there's the difference between living up north and living where Sandi lives, for sure. And it's another windy day. It's windy today and it's windy tomorrow.
It's beautiful blue sky and sunny, just like South Dakota is most days. We're at 52 right now and breezy. Mm-hmm. And ironically, and I always say this to Sandi, but it's actually feels colder now than it does when it's in, the 30s sometimes. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird.
It's the wind. See, now you can tell the difference in who's got the better attitude this morning. She says beautiful, sunny, and breezy, and I'm like windy and beating me the heck up.
I've had enough. Well, we had a bunch of folks come in the chat. We've got Lori with LG Homestead, Tony with Kettle Kitchen, Garden to Table with Heather Lynn. Welcome in, welcome in.
Good morning.
Lori said it's 79 degrees in Oklahoma. Rub it in.
Awesome.
Rub it in.
That's beautiful, beautiful temperatures right there.
Yeah.
I got a funny story for you before we get into it. So I put my seedlings out. I don't have a lot because the garden has been a source of frustration here, but I have tomatoes and peppers started. So I take my seedlings and I put them out, in the shade, to kind of harden them off because the sun here is pretty brutal. Mm-hmm. I put them out for less than 2 hours and I go out and they all look dead.
You're
right?
kidding.
But you know what it was? It's because the humidity is so darn low here that it just sucked the moisture out of them. So I brought him in because Ryan comes home and at lunch and says, well, geez, you killed them already. You didn't even get them out to the greenhouse. So I watered them and they came back. So they'll be going out again.
Thank goodness.
But I laughed because I always told Sandi the story about when we took our seedlings and we put them out to harden off out here. And the first day, within a half hour, they were all dead. We had to start over.
I always plant more seedlings than I need because they die. They'll die during their seedling phase, and then when I go and transplant them up to the Dixie cups, so to get them to that teenager status, I guess.
Yeah.
They'll die when they're in the Dixie cups too, and I always try to plant more than I need because I know I'm going to lose some in the process. I don't know if it's something I'm doing or if it's just what happens for everybody.
I think it happens for a lot of us because there are so many factors. Some get too moist, some get too dry. There's not enough airflow. There's just a lot of things that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I've got a question for you, Sandi, but I want to go to the chat. Lori, you don't have AC yet? Huh, I don't have AC at all.
Even Lisa, they don't.
I know. I have one unit that we brought with us from North Carolina, and it was actually the smaller one, and we've used it one time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Charlene Heel. Hey, Broke Cowgirl. Welcome in, everybody.
Betty.
So, Sandy, because you're here.
Lisa.
Sorry, Tammy. Go ahead.
I just said, funny how similar our environments are. We don't. None of the houses have air conditioners up here, so we're kind of the same way. They just don't put them on the homes. Not to say it doesn't get hot, but it just doesn't stay hot. Like you might get hot. I don't know how it is for you, Lisa. Up here in the summer at the hottest time, it might get hot in the house maybe between 2 and 6 or something like that. And then it cools down at night. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, with the new windows now, I don't even have to worry about it. But hey, Rebecca Davis, welcome in. So, Sandy, my question is for you is, so I see a lot of people taking seedlings and putting them right in the greenhouse and not hardening them off. Do they still need to be hardened off if you have that clear corrugated?
Well, it really depends on the amount of humidity you have in your area and the temperatures going on in the next week or two. You know, because you have to remember a greenhouse, even if it's 70 degrees outside, it can heat up to 100 degrees just quick as can be. And your seedlings that have been under your lights are not used to any of that. They're not, even the sun filtering through whatever kind of plastic or corrugated material you have, it can still be intense. And you want your seedlings to have the best shot ever. And so harden them off. It doesn't take that many days. And in the long run, your plants will be stronger and healthier.
How many days do you recommend?
Well, what I like to do is the first day I only let them out for an hour. The next day it's 2 hours. Next day is 3. So after about 5-6 days, I figure they're tough enough. Another thing I like to do if I know the temperatures at night are going to be halfway warm above 50, after I bring them in, when it gets dark, I put them back outside because they need to know what nighttime temperatures are like too. You know, when we have them under the lights, they're that beautiful temperature. It's like balmy. I'm on the seashore. And they have to get used to everything.
Great points, because, you know, as you know, Ryan is the outdoor gardener. I'm not, but he's become increasingly, I think, discouraged by the climate and growing here. And so I've really had to push him, but I'm not taking on the outside garden. I got the animals to handle. So, hey, Abundant Acres. Hey, Mickelson family. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, I got the peppers and the tomatoes started. I have some extra cherry tomatoes that I was going to do hydroponically. They're in soil and they need to get outside. So I'm hardening that stuff off. And I bought like an extra strawberry plant and just some stuff to go in the greenhouse to see if it does better in the greenhouse versus outside. But he did get all the potatoes in, and we are going to try onions again, even though we didn't want to. But I threw a lot of nitrogen in the ground. So hopefully that's enough. Hey, Grace and Fire. So yeah, absolutely. So thank you. But so everybody who's in the chat, we have Sandy from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Hey, Ariella. And Sandy is our special guest today. And Sandy, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you manage all the balls that you have in the air, because you're a juggler and you do it gracefully. Tell us.
I'm a list maker. I have been a list maker forever. I have this big board above my computer at home, and it's a whiteboard, and I write all my videos. When I get them done for the week, I'm crossing them out. I have sticky notes literally all the way around them. It's like ideas for, my channels, because I have more than one channel. And so then I want to make sure that I'm catching all the things I want to do. And sometimes, honestly, it's overwhelming. It is, because you have all your stuff besides your YouTube life, and so sometimes it can be overwhelming. But then I have to just sit back and say, okay, what's on my list first? I can't look what I have to do on Friday. What do I have to do today?
Or what can I do today, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, that there are things that, like, we're in Tucson, Arizona instead of Yuma right now because my dad's in surgery right now. And so we're at the VA hospital. And so things had to change. That was, life happens and family comes first. And so you have to remember that. Even as a YouTube channel, you just got to go, guys, the videos may not be there. And I think most people understand that. They understand that life happens.
And life has to come first. I mean, because that's the reality. And, that's what I was saying to you guys as we were backstage before we started. This is our busy time of the year, right? Because it's, make hay while the sun shines. Well, this is the time of the year. We have all the animals on the farm to raise for meat, and then we scale back for winter time. So this is go time, right? Gardening, all that stuff. It's, what can we do to raise all the meat for our family for the rest of the year?
Right.
And so, that's what's real important. And I wanted to mention that I have the links for all of Sandi's channels down in the description box, as well as Mtn Grandma. So check them out. Obviously she has Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. And I believe it's one woman's walk with God.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fused Art Network, or Fused Glass
Artwork.
Fused Glass Artwork is also there. So check them out. See which ones appeal to you. If they all do, check them out. If not, check them out anyway. But Sandi's got a lot of great information and a lot of great tips on things. I was telling Ryan about this, what you did with the lemon trees. You put those 3 T-posts, metal T-posts, and then put like the little PVC, and you had netting. That was a great idea. I love stuff like that.
Animals get to your trees. If it's not birds, it can be rabbits. It can be just all kinds of stuff. Want to chew on your trees or get your fruit. And so anything you can do to help them, you're their parent, basically. It's your job to watch over your vegetables, your plants, your trees. You put that investment in, so you want to do everything to protect it. That's my feelings anyway.
Absolutely. And I remember you saying that the birds were actually searching for water through the leaves.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. Yep. Abundant acres. Exactly. I agree. It's go time now for all the homesteaders.
Mm-hmm.
So it's terrible because all the questions I have in my head are all the selfish ones that I want to suck out of Sandi's knowledge. Like, what fruit trees should I get? And what fruit trees should I plant? But Sandi, do you want to talk a little bit? So you've got the whiteboard, and you have lists. How do you find balance in your life?
Well, actually, Joe is my biggest help with balance. Joe's my husband, and he can see, he says, you got that stress in your eyes. And he says, what can I do to help? So it's very nice to have a partner, because not all YouTube channels have partners. But it's great if you have somebody, even if it's not a husband or a wife, if it's one of your kids, it's one of your best friends, somebody that's going to say, okay, I know you're busy. What can I do to help? And that really helps me to keep a balance. And he'll see those lists and he'll go, okay, you're not doing all those. Because
unrealistic.
You just have so many ideas.
Oh my gosh, you guys' dynamic is exactly like my husband and I. I see everything the way that, I got a pen in my hand. I've been taking notes. The way that you approach things, and Sandi, how you just, to me, how I perceive you, and how you feel like you are is one thing, but I'll tell you how I perceive you is just an excited person, an excited individual who wants to do things, and you get joy out of the accomplishing of things, whether it's the gardening, your artwork, you get joy in things, and you can't just willy-nilly do them. You got to go all in when you do them. That's how my personality, and I have so many hobbies, and my husband, he's the one that'll be like, you can't do, like, really, you can't, not this week. You've got enough that you're doing this week. Like, and that's kind of, he knows that I don't take no very well. So he can't totally flash on something, but he will encourage me to think about it, to let myself have more time. And it sounds like exactly like you and your husband, what they got to do with us, right? Like that's mm-hmm.
I always tell my husband, there's so many things to try and so little time.
Yes.
You're on this earth for such a little bit of time. Yeah. You better have fun. You better do everything that's possible that you can do.
Yeah.
And just enjoy life and just like spread it to everybody.
And for some people, it might be like big time traveling. Like they've got this. But for some of us, for me, it's really creative expression a lot. And the things that I like to do, whether it's making soap and lotion or sewing or crocheting or music, it's that creative expression. And those things that I really want to dabble in, that's what I find fun to do. I see that in you too. It's like that creative expression, because you feel that way when you garden too, right? Like,
yeah, because there's just so many ideas. And when it comes to gardening, so many plants to try.
Yeah.
And now that we live in two places, when we only lived in Wyoming, I had lemon trees. I would make Joe take them out in the springtime in these great big buckets and pull them back in the fall time. And I would say, I would love to have those that they were, in the ground. And so now that we live in Arizona and Wyoming, it's just all these totally different new plants you can grow.
Yeah.
Trees you can grow. And it's just like, woohoo, my excitement level is way up here all the time.
I told Ryan, when we first got Sherman, because my Cooney pigs are my excitement or my creative outlet too. I love them. I love nothing but just sitting there and hanging out with them. It's like having 4 other dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're so cute.
And it's funny, I think back to when we got Sherman, and that was March of 2021. And so from that point on, I had a plan. We were going to get more and breed. I don't think Ryan knew that yet. And so here we are. We've gotten to the point where we hope it takes, and we have 2 litters coming in July. And now I'm at the point where I'm going to have several creative outlets running around, and I'm hoping that I can sell them or my husband's going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. But you'll be able to. People are always looking for them,
and I had Sandi, we had to travel, and you'll know how far when I tell you, but New Effington, which is all the way on the eastern part of the state, not far from North Dakota. It's like 8.5 hours or 8 hours from us. We had to travel that far to get the 3 of them. And then I knew that I found Grant was our last one, and I was able to find him up in Vail. But other than that, there's not a lot around. But, you get that angst about, okay, I'm here. I'm finally at this point, and I'm sitting here going, I got to be able to justify having these pigs as breeders. But it's fun to do all this stuff that we're doing and have the excitement, like you said. And you will hear me screaming all the way to Wyoming if I have 2 litters. I won't even need to text you.
It'll be so exciting.
So cute.
This is like dream come true.
Hey, you're going to have to get a website, Lisa. So my daughter, remember she had the quintuplets with the goats?
Yeah.
So she's only sold 1. And her friend she got them from, this lady like raised goats. And so she has a website, and she has a waiting list for her goats. So my daughter's been struggling. She has not had a website. She did just start a channel on Instagram called Katie the Goat Lady. But so she's trying to, do that more. But just putting that out there, Lisa, put that on your list. Make a website for your pigs, and you might end up, because Sherman is freaking adorable. Oh my god!
Even if they're not fully registered,
and Grant too. Well, I
would think so.
Why not?
Because I know that registered, they go for a lot of money. I have one who's registered. That's Eleanor. Because we wanted to start first.
Yeah.
Before we moved in, because that's a big undertaking. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people like us who want access to coonies that can't afford the registered ones.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. And, I'm going to be honest too, living in the town that I live in, feeder pigs are what people are buying, not coonies. So, well, it's reality. I mean, if I told a farmer, hey, $250 for a piglet, he'd be like, is it done? Because that's a small pig. That needs to be 400 pounds.
Well, I think it's a lot of, you have to give some knowledge and just always, spreading the word about this is what this pig is, all about.
Right.
And the benefits of having that breed of pig.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because look what people pay for dogs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh.
Even if they're not a purebred dog, what they pay for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just have to teach people.
Mm-hmm.
True. And we plan to do that. We plan to do all that. Once we have the litters, once we have the first litter, we'll be announcing it and posting that they'll be for sale and all of that. And then we'll give more information. Hey, everybody in the chat who came in, thanks for being here. So yeah, definitely. But so again, I'm being selfish because Sandi's here and I love to get all the knowledge out of her brain because she's so fun.
She is.
And so everybody in the chat, we have Sandi here from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. All her links for her 3 channels are in the description box. And I have the Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona link pinned at the top of the chat because we don't have any mods in here. So we do a quick and dirty live on this here. But so Joe helps you with balance. Tammy, did you have any questions for Sandi?
Oh, I do. I have some written down.
I know you do.
One thing I want to mention, not a question, but Sandi, I don't know if you've ever driven, like when you go in Tucson, when you go down St. Mary's, you pass the hospital up towards that casino, and you take the road where you go the back way through the mountains. You will see.
Oh, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, Sandi, ask around, look it up. It would I would love for you to video it just so I could see it again, because I might not ever see it again. These cactus, you guys, they're like, I don't know, 24 feet tall. They're the tallest cactuses in the state. It is the most beautiful drive you've ever seen. You get a little bit of this going on. So I don't know if you might want to take Dramamine if you're, but
good with that.
But it is.
I'm going to post a few links for folks while we're here.
It is gorgeous. So I wanted to put that out there. I mean, not that you need anything else on a sticky note, but it really is something worth seeing. It's not like any other. It's kind of like a Sedona view, but it's not Sedona.
Okay.
I just mean a Sedona view. Like everybody has probably heard of Sedona and the Red Rocks and the beautiful structures there. This is completely different, but it has its own beauty that I don't know if you can see it anywhere else in the world. It truly
check it out.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I know you go down St. Mary's. My husband always drives, and then I'm passenger. So down St. Mary's, and it's a road that when you're headed that way, when you're headed to you pass the hospital, you're headed towards that casino, you take a right there somewhere. There's not.
I'll find out.
But yeah, look around. So I wanted to mention that to you. But then I know that for, like you mentioned, the gardening that you do in Wyoming and the gardening you do in Tucson, and I know you got potatoes in a box that you're going to be taking with you back to Wyoming. And
taters will travel.
And I love that idea. because, what if somebody moves or something and it's like in the middle of the garden season? What can you take? What do you give up? What do you try to give to a neighbor? So I'm curious, what are you taking with you? I know you're taking potatoes. What else?
I am, because the reason why I'm doing potatoes, if you haven't seen the video, is when we got back to Wyoming last year, I had such a hard time finding seed potatoes because it was, almost the end of April when we got back, and you just couldn't find them. And I thought, I need to chip my potatoes now, put them in a box, and take them with me so I can plant them when I get back next week.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, we would be leaving, and I wouldn't have got to enjoy my potatoes. Because when you live in two places, that's something you have to consider. We're bringing a couple of the tomato plants home. The rest of them I'm giving away to people. I'm digging up my celery, because that's what I did last year. I dug up the celery, and I let it finish growing in Wyoming. It was fabulous. I put huge PVC pipes around it. They were about 10 inches, 12 inches across. And I just slid them over top of them so it blanched that bottom part of the celery. And it never got too much wind. It didn't get sunburned. It worked perfect. So I'll pick those up. And then in my little flower towers that I had, I'm bringing all the succulents home. But everything else, all the Swiss chard in Arizona, in my part of Arizona, the Swiss chard is a perennial, and it'll live about 15 years. And so my neighbors are just going to keep picking it all summer long. And my artichokes are so big, they're bigger than softballs now.
Wow.
I'm so excited.
How do you prepare your artichokes?
Well, I mostly like them on pizza. And so the artichoke heart is what I like. But you can steam them. You cut the little tips because sometimes that gets jagged, and you steam them, and then you just break them off, and you can pull the inside of the leaves out with your teeth. You dip it in butter and pull it out.
That's
how good.
You know how my mom used to do it? She would cut the bottoms off to make them level, put them in a pot so they'd all be standing. But before that, she would cut the jagged edge off, and she would kind of just go like this a little with the top of them. She would drizzle some olive oil and put breadcrumbs on them and steam them.
Oh my God.
And then you would have breadcrumbs and the leaves.
I'm going to try it.
Oh my gosh. It's delicious.
I'll bet it is. Do you make them like that, Lisa?
I haven't had them in years, but my mom used to make them like that. I want to do it.
If you do
where I live, it's hard to find artichokes.
Yeah, because that's.
Can I put them in a box for you and mail them up to you? Do you think they would survive?
You're totally gonna be like, you're gonna have a truck full by the time you come here.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. Oh, I tell you. Abundant Acres wants to know if you did anything different to grow your artichokes that big.
No. It's got a sandy loam base, and then I added, because we kind of dug in a little bit in the flower beds, because they're in my flower beds, and I just added actually raised bed soil.
Wow.
And then I have some bags they're about 3-liter bags that you get at Home Depot, and it's just it's kind of like, it's not really a potting soil, but it's not really a raised bed. It's kind of a mixture in between. It has some compost in it. I put some of that in there, and they have loved it, but they get total afternoon shade. After about 1:30 in the afternoon, they are in the shade. And with the warm temperatures in Yuma, I think they just thought it was fabulous. And it has a water system. They get watered every 3 days, and
nice.
They like it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, do you grow aloe down there?
Yeah.
Do you use a succulent soil for your aloe?
No, I just plant them in the ground.
And your ground there, you mentioned that it was more the sandier dirt, I think.
Yeah, it's a sandy loam-like. It does have some dirt. Because where we are, we're literally basically used to be floodplain. It used to be the river. Before they had the dams on the Colorado, it was all river. And that's why they grow such great crops down here, because of that soil too. And some parts of my garden needs a little bit more oomph. My pumpkins, where usually your pumpkin leaves are about this big. The pumpkin leaves were about this big, and the pumpkins and the squashes didn't get as big. But I think it just needs some, I don't know, I think I'll put some cow manure or something in that part next time, and I think it'll fix it.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. So how do you do managing back and forth between two residences? Because that can be a huge challenge. My parents used to do it for a summer, a weekend home that eventually became their retirement home. And I know that was challenging. And I bet it's even more challenging to go somewhere for so many months of the year. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, some of the hard things about it is that all your mail is supposed to be forward. It doesn't always happen. You have to switch your utilities. Well, not like we turn our water off in Wyoming, but we leave our electricity on there because we set our thermostats at 55 because it can be 40 below in Wyoming. And so we don't want it hot or anything, but we don't want anything to freeze in there. You have to switch your internet. You have to do a lot of things. But the weirdest thing is you'll be about to do something and you'll go, oh, I don't have that here. That's back in Wyoming. Or I'll be in Wyoming and it's, oh, I left that in Arizona. So then you have to decide, do I really need it that much that I want to spend money to have it in both places? Or can I improvise? So that there's a lot of trying to improvise things all the time because we live, a lot of times people think if you have two places, you're rich. That is not true. I mean, there are rich people down here. I don't want to say that. But I have to honestly tell you, Joe and I live on Social Security and what I make from YouTube and what I sell for my art. That's what we live on. And so you have to just be careful. Do we have savings? We do, but we try to never get into that because we're not that old yet. What if we spent it now? What would we do when we were 80 and 90 years old? So that's a balance, because a lot of times people go, let's go. We get invited to go to cruises with all these people. And it's like, we're not going on a cruise. That is not in my budget line.
I love that you brought that up. I really do, because we've had that. We've heard that. And that's not the case. It's how you're managing things. And, all the repurposing that we do here is because we'd much rather save that money for a tractor when that opportunity came up, because we need it to be able to process our own livestock, because the reality of it is the world is changing, and not only cost of a processor, but the availability is not there anymore. So, you want to be smart, you want to be wise with your money. And so what a lot of folks don't realize, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for this, but you got to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, is that you have to sit there and say, okay, do you want something or do you need something? And I'll give you a stupid little example. We were walking through Tractor Supply. I've been teasing Ryan for a year. I want that metal rooster that's 6 foot tall. I want that rooster so bad, right? Ryan looked at me in Tractor Supply the other day on Mother's Day and said, get it. And I said, you know what? No, we need a brooder heater plate instead. So we went and got a brooder heater plate. But that made sense for us because we're always having something in the brooder.
Yeah.
And even though we can't have 5 of them to replace all the heat lamps, that reduces the heat lamps out there. And it makes me feel better because I worry about those darn heat lamps.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's about being smart. And do I still want that rooster? Yes. But really, do I need that rooster? No, because it's just going to fall over all the time. Right? But it's just a good point. I'd rather have something that was going to invest in what we're doing.
Yeah. Like when we first moved to Wyoming 17 years ago, Could have we afforded a bigger house? We could have. You know, Joe worked at the mine. It's a great paying job, you know. But we chose to buy a little house because you never know what things will happen.
Yep.
And when we got our little house in Arizona, you know, we wanted to be by my parents. My dad is 91. My mom is 83, 84. We wanted to be by them. They had that little teeny older trailer. It's 1972. We bought it with the land for just over $20,000.
Wow.
So it's paid for, and we don't have a payment, two payments, you know, but that's a hard thing. If you live in two places, a lot of times you have two payments. And pretty soon our house up there will be paid for. So you have to make those choices, which are not fun sometimes. You know, you have neighbors and you have friends and you have family that are going here on a vacation for 2 weeks and they're doing this and they're, you know, like when we bought our truck, we searched basically for 3 years, and we looked at used ones, we looked at new ones, and at the time, the Ram truck was having this deal. If you could lease your truck for 3 years for just over $300 a month. So that's what we did, and we decided we were going to save. And so when that 3 years were up, plus it had $13,000 worth of rebates, because most people do not keep their truck that they rent. They just get a different one that they rent. So we saved, and when that was due, we paid off the $22,000 that was left, which was way less. So you paid for 3 years with $300 and some dollars, $22,000. It was like a $56,000 truck at the beginning that we didn't pay that much money for. But it was one of those things that we looked at. This truck will last us probably 20, 25 years. So that was a good investment. That was worth putting that money out and saving that money. But it's all choices that you make every single day.
Absolutely. Ryan bought a 1992, what is it, Ryan? W250 diesel, had one owner. And I remember the day he showed it to me, just because I'm not a car person, right? Just give me a vehicle, I'll drive it. And so the funniest thing is he said to me, he goes, I want this truck. He goes, this was the last, for him, he said, this was the last year they made trucks that were good, they were solid, and I can work on it to fix it. And he bought that truck, you know, free and clear. And everybody was like, oh, 92, why would you buy that? You know what? It hauls our feed. It hauls our wood pellets because it can haul the weight. But you know what? He can work on it. He can fix it. Whereas a lot of the other stuff nowadays is computerized. And like you said, $56,000 for a truck, right? And I know you said you didn't pay that, but a lot of people have. And that's a lot of money for a vehicle that's going to lose 30% the minute it drives out the car dealership. Right. For the first year, because I used to work for a car dealership, so sadly I know that stuff. But it's crazy, you know what I mean? But I think it's all about being smart with what you're purchasing. And I know one of the things here is I keep saying we want more land. Well, land here is really hard to buy, as a lot of people know. And if we did buy it, it would have to be one for the other, because we're making a choice not to go from one mortgage to another. You know, we want to be able to be free and clear if we switch to another property. So we want the sale of this property to work for the other one. So it's, you know, choices we got to make. And if you homestead in the city or suburbs or in the country, you are making those choices all the time. And it is easy to get in trouble trying to keep up with other people. But instead of looking at, because like on your land, you have the ability to do so many things because you have a larger acreage. You know, where back home in Wyoming, we have about 1/3 of an acre, which is a big lot. And so I look at it, okay, where can I just basically make little rooms, you know, okay, what can I have right here? What kind of microclimate is that right there that
those plants can be the best right there. And when you have acreage, it's basically the same thing. How can I use this section to its full potential? You know, because my brother always says, I want 40 acres when he retires. And I said, what are you actually going to do with 40 acres? You know, and he says, well, I want my bees and I want to have some chickens, maybe a couple cows. I said, you don't need 40 acres for that.
No. We're proof of that.
Yeah, I saw that video that you did where you were talking about, you did a couple of them. You did one about buying land where you brought up some points like that. And one about homesteading in the city and the suburbs, and really just taking advantage of what you have and recognizing what you have, because I think that's part of it. People get limited on their vision of what they have and don't necessarily realize what they can do with that space. And I think great points. If you want to share some of those, I think that was awesome.
I think that sometimes we look at the people that have an acreage. You know, you've always dreamed of being a homesteader. You know, I've always loved farms. When I grew up, parts of my summer were with my grandma and grandfather on their farm in Nebraska. I love that whole thing. Joe does not want to live on a farm. You know, he would like maybe 2 or 3 acres. You know, he'd be okay with that. But he doesn't have that deep-rooted feeling like I have with the land. So I had to decide, okay, I love Joe more than any land in the world. So what can I do on my property to fulfill all of those things? And I think too many times we don't look at the prospects that we have. We just think, well, when I get rich or when I get money, I'll buy that farm, that ranch, that homestead, and that will satisfy everything. But if you are not satisfied right now, you will get there, and the first 6 months, it's fabulous. And then it's like, oh, this isn't as, you know, I can't do this, or I have to drive into town every time I want something. You have to be satisfied right where you are. So look at your stuff and see, what can I do with every square foot I have?
Excellent point.
It makes you happy.
Yeah.
Excellent point. And it's so true. And, you know, if you would have asked me when we moved in here, if we would have 3 pastures in the back part of the property and there's room for more, I'd have said no. But, you know, when you finally look at things with efficient use of space, or you look at it with a vision and you look at it with, how can I make what I have what I want, you know, or what my dream is, you realize that you don't need a lot of space. Like when I say we want more land, we don't want 40 acres. In fact, the only reason we want it is we want to be a little more isolated and it to be flatter land. But but the other thing is there's also considerations. If you think about all the work we've put into this property over the past 2.5, almost 3 years, that's a lot to do again. So that's also a consideration. You know what I mean? So I guess sometimes people look at things on YouTube and think people are doing it willy-nilly, right? But really there's a lot of factors that go into it. And so that's why folks who take their time and think things out and with a vision do really well, because they're not doing it willy-nilly.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes we have to take into consideration your health, your age, if you want to be by family. There's a lot of things to decide, you know, and everybody's ideas are different. It's not wrong. It's not right. It's what's best for you and your family right there.
Absolutely. And Broke Cowgirl was saying, I see so many homesteaders buying new, bigger properties when they haven't utilized the space that they have. Yeah. And sometimes There's other reasons for that, I'm going to say. But I think, that's their choice. And then there's Grace and Fire said we looked at moving recently, but honestly, it's not wise for personal reasons. My suburban homestead is my classroom for my dream. Absolutely.
I love that.
Barb
That's a
laughing
great
at my
way to look at
willy-nilly.
it.
Right? Every gardening season is an opportunity to learn. I mean, if you get new animals, even if they're the smaller animals, you're still learning from those smaller animals. It's all because we were here in Arizona, we're up north, we're on hauled water, and we have a friend who they have 1 acre, and he had 3 cows on 1 acre, and it's, in a farming community, you can do that there. We were neighbors. And so we bought half a cow from him. He kind of got orders ahead of time, and he was able to do that there. And we were thinking, if we could get a cow up here, like we have a neighbor up here who said they'd go in on it. But then we found out how much water a cow drinks every day. And we can't sustain that on hauled water. That would just be nuts. Like, so you do what you can with what you have. And
Right.
I love that. Not to say that we don't want more land, but our reason for wanting more land, if we were to move to someplace in the Midwest, in Arizona, and Sandi, you know about this because you live here. Arizona is full of government land. We have BLM land, which is Bureau of Land Management. You have to get drawn to go hunting, which is a huge bummer because you could not even get drawn for 1 deer tag. Versus in the West, if you own, I know in Missouri, if you own 5 acres, you get given the opportunity for 12 tags in a year. And guess what, though? In Missouri in particular, 93% private land. That freaked me out. I was like, what? Where do you guys go hunting? And I found out they hunt on their own property. So for that reason, if you're going to live somewhere like that, you do need, if you're a hunter, if that's something you enjoy and you like that resource for meat, you really have to have some kind of land to hunt on, because that little 7% of land is going to be so packed with hunters that don't have land that your chances of getting, and I don't even know how you do it. I know you get the 12 tags if you have a minimum of 5 acres. But then, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever comes on your property. That thought to me was so weird, but so I don't know what anybody else does because I'm so used to Arizona. We have such a selection of where we want to go hunting. There's like different zones throughout the state, and you have to put in for, zone 6, zone 7, zone 8, like whatever. Is that how it is there too, Lisa? So I kind of
That's how it is in South Dakota, but in Connecticut, it wasn't like that. North Carolina wasn't like that. So I'm used to states where it was more privatized, like you said. But the whole Forest Service land is much different. Ryan got his antelope tag last year, and he got a turkey one this year, but he's put in for others. He hasn't gotten them yet, and he's been doing it for, I think, the 3rd year now.
Yeah. But when we moved from the valley, which is what with Phoenix, guys, we were outside of Phoenix we had an acre. It used to be dairy property. Oh my gosh, the best gardening. It was so fun. We had, chickens and horses. We were right there. Anyways, when we moved up here, we had an option to get a larger home, which would have been the size of what we had in the valley, and 10 acres. And at the time, I didn't want the larger home, and I didn't want the responsibility of the 10 acres. I was thinking of it as, let's downsize and get out of debt. Like, let's do that. Plus, our kids are going to need our help, and I don't want to not be able to help my kids because I have all of our money wrapped up into our own living expenses. I wanted to make sure that I could support them in whatever fashion they needed us, which was going to be financially, and it has been, and that was a blessing. But totally respect that decision you made too, Sandi, because we could have done it as well. Just because the lender says, hey, you can afford a home up to this dollar amount, doesn't mean you need to spend that dollar amount.
Right.
Nobody owns our homes anymore. We all think we own our homes, but as long as we owe somebody for them, they're not really ours. And I think that society's kind of been tricked into this mindset of this is your house, this is your truck, but only as long as you continue to give us money for it. It's not really ours if we don't have it paid off. And dang it, I want to have something paid off.
Tammy's got 3 snaps up.
The nice thing is when you live in community, you know, you have the people around you. You don't necessarily have to have a cow on your property. Maybe you have something that they want. You know, are there things that you can barter and trade? And, you know, this person has a half a cow, but maybe Lisa trades 2 pigs and vegetables or something. You know, sometimes there's part trade and part money exchange, but you know, sometimes we think as a homesteader we have to do everything. You know, we have to have cows, chickens, pigs, rabbits, ducks, geese, everything. If you can have that and you want to, have that, but that does not make you a homesteader. That makes you somebody that's looking over a lot of animals. What makes you a homesteader is that whole package of a mindset, of what your goals are, because a homesteader thinks differently than other people.
Yeah, we buy a local cow. That's what we do. We get a local cow because there's no way that we could raise an animal, a beef animal, a cow, by the time we would have to factor in hay, we'd have to factor in this. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So that's
pasture land where we live, huh, Lisa?
No, and that's exactly why we have the pheasants now, and that's because the pheasants, poultry is easy to raise. It's temporary, like meat birds. And so we can have the experience of raising them, but we're also diversifying our proteins in the freezer. And we've got all that. So
love that.
Yeah, I mean,
they have goats and they have chickens. So we have access to goat milk and we have access to fresh eggs. They don't have the meat birds. And I've been wanting to get either meat birds or meat rabbits or maybe both. But I'm trying to time it with some things that we got going on. And then, so it gets kind of tricky. But you're right. There's so many ways to do that. And it's definitely a mindset of just, you know, how can you achieve some kind of self-sufficiency on your homestead? And so I have the bigger garden, right? Like that's kind of what my job is, as we work together as a family.
Right. And teamwork is just phenomenal.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I did type in the chat, but I want to be mindful of time. We're at about under 7 minutes, and I wanted to make sure that if there's any questions for Sandi, it'd be great if you could type them right in the chat. Just type a Q so I can see it.
I saw one in here for her. Grace
Go ahead.
was asking, how long have you been making fused art, and what's your favorite thing to make?
About 10 years, actually. My favorite thing to do is what I call coral bowls. They're long pieces of glass that you fuse together and then you put over a mold. And when it pops open, that bowl looks like coral. And I have made just tons of them in so many different colors. And they're just, every single one is spectacular. But I just love anything about fused glass. You know, I got a fused glass necklace on.
That's beautiful. Put that up to the camera again.
What?
Can you show that up to the camera again? Oh, that is
beautiful.
Gorgeous. Oh my
See,
goodness.
it's just my saw and I cut into it so it has light that goes through it.
Wow.
I love it.
It is awesome.
Beautiful.
I love it too. That's beautiful.
But it's a great outlet for me. You know, if I get busy and I'm not doing art, I can get grumpy. And So with having my own fused glass artwork channel, I got to make something every week. So
Joe at Garden State Gardener said his wife doesn't like egg, chicken, and she's allergic to tomatoes and bees. So next year I'm getting chickens, already growing 300 tomatoes. Oh my gosh. Everybody's loving your necklace, Sandi.
oh, thanks.
Well, Sandi, while we're waiting for questions, is there anything else that you want to share about goal setting or, all that kind of thing and how you live life?
Well, Joe and I have 3 things we basically live by. Our goals are to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and self-reliant. So if I seem to get off track, Joe reminds me of my goals, and it makes it so that I try to look at things differently. I try to say, okay, this costs this much money if I buy it brand new, but what could I do to get similar results? Or what can I make? Because sometimes I'll be at a art show or a craft show or something, and I'll look at it and I'll go, no, I can make that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And make it different or better for me. Maybe not better for somebody else, but better for me.
Yeah.
It meets my needs. It's just being true to yourself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you like city life and you like all the amenities of it, then just live your life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a homesteader. You don't have to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
You can enjoy watching homesteaders on YouTube, but that doesn't mean you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just have to really sit back and say, what are the things I want in my life?
Mm-hmm.
What makes me happy? What makes my spouse happy?
Yep.
Because you are a team. Even if you don't like that person, you still are a team. So what can you do to make them happy?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to talk your significant other into going somewhere or making a huge lifestyle change? That's just a recipe for disaster.
It is.
People have to be driven themselves to do that. You can't, because then they're going to be like, you.
Yeah.
Here.
You even have to think of your family when it comes to that. Now, there are times that as the mom and dad, you
Mm-hmm.
make choices, even if your kids don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to keep in mind, if your child is very sociable and you are going to live 30 miles from town, what
Mm-hmm.
can you do to have him or her still be happy? Are you willing to drive those distances so they can be in those clubs and those activities? But
Mhm.
sometimes you know better than what that 12-year-old knows.
Yeah.
And you just have to make that choice.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And Grace and Fire wants to know what drew you into being a homesteader.
Oh, I think it was from when I was little, spending time on my grandma and grandpa's farm in Nebraska. Both of my grandparents always had gardens. My dad he was the gardener, not my mom. And I think I had loved it from when I was little. It's like when my kids were small, I always made them pull weeds. I made them be in the garden. I made them do stuff with my honeybees. I just made them do stuff. Sometimes they liked it, sometimes they didn't like it. But every single one of them loves gardening. They love the whole, and they're not necessarily homesteaders, but somewhat kind of preppers. They want their pantry stocked. They want to be self-sufficient. They don't. None of them are crazy about spending money. They save. They work hard, and I think that's just something sometimes you learn when you're little. Now, that's not to say that you can't learn those things when you get older. Because there are plenty of people that were never raised. They never knew what a vegetable looked like outside of what the store made it look like.
Uh-huh.
Those are learned things you can learn. But for me, since Glenda's asking, I think it was just inside me that's what I was supposed to do. And I think if you learn who you are, you will know if that's something for you or not.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Hey, Andy at Brooklyn's Honeybees. So we're at the end, and it's funny because you said it's inside you, and you were talking about partnership. And it's funny because Ryan is the level-headed person. I'm the impulsive, I want it, let's get it kind of person. And it really works out well because, you know, I remember when we got the chickens, he said, you know, it was like a parent. He said, you better read about chickens. We'll go back in the morning, but you're taking care of them. Right? And then, you know, because he wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be a fad, you know,
Right.
and then, you know, all that, because he takes that very responsibly. And it was funny because the same thing with the pig. And I remembered looking him in the eyes and I said, I want the pig. We're getting Sherman.
Love
You know,
Sherman.
but it's turned out so beautifully. But I do appreciate that in a partner to be able to say, like, whoa, stop and think about what you're getting into, because
Yeah.
it's important, because
Yep.
there's no going back.
Well, that's why one of the things why I think if somebody wants a homestead in the country, they should really start homesteading in the city, right where they are, because you will find that, oh, it takes me this many hours to do my gardens, and I have to get up and feed my chickens every morning. I have to feed those rabbits. I have to do something with this stuff. And you may find that it's just not for you. And you didn't spend all that money to buy land and a house and stuff in the country, and then it really wasn't for you. But you thought it was, but maybe it is just a fad. So starting small, no matter where you are, I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's a commitment for sure.
It definitely is. It definitely is, you know, and especially, you know, think about it. Do you want to be doing this at minus 30 degrees? Right.
Sick.
Yeah, your weather affects it. You know, if you live in a place where it rains all the time, do you mind having to muck through that dirt and feed your animals? And if it rains all the time, you still have to do stuff in your garden, you know?
Exactly.
I think people watch TV and they watch YouTube, and sometimes they think, oh, that doesn't take very much time. It takes time.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all speeded up video and it's just showing clips, and they're like, it doesn't take that much work. It's a lot of work.
You want to know the funny part? That is exactly why I posted the raw footage of us turning Sherman over on his back and getting his hooves trimmed. Because if you want, now that went pretty smoothly. Okay, you should have seen the two girls. We had to run after them, and it was a circus. But that's why I posted that, because a lot of people said, I never realized you had to trim pig hooves. And, you know, yeah, a lot of it is if you only have meat pigs for 8 months of the year, you don't have to. So.
Hold 1 second. It's the hospital.
Okay.
Hello?
Hold on, guys.
That's my mom. She's inside. Can I take a message? Thank you so much. And he's going to get moved over to building 2 then? Okay. And can you hear me? Can you hear me? I got to call him back. It clicked off.
Well, we're going to end right here. So I'm glad he's okay. Go take care of him, and we'll take care of the rest.
Thank you so much. Ladies.
Thank you, Sandi. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Lisa, I will be over in May with a beehive, raspberries, and some artichokes.
And I will be sending you home with some stuff as well.
Awesome. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we are going to end it. Thank you so much. We're grateful that Sandi's dad is doing well. And I'm going to end the live now. But thanks for being here today, everybody. And I think it was Jean Johnson had come in. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Have a great day, everybody. Take good care.
Bye, everyone.